many of us were talking about how critical it is to get kids back into the classroom, and not just one day a week, but 5 days a week. And you can see that more and more science from the CDC, World Health Organization, lots of different places are saying it's safe for kids to be in the classroom. And so January 14th was when Senate File 2 was dropped, or where we submitted it, and then January 21st we did a press conference on it. We passed it out of committee last week, so the governor knew that this was the direction we were going. I'm glad to see that he did a press conference after that saying that kids need to be in the classroom, but he shouldn't have been the last one to the table. He should have been leading the way on getting kids back into the classroom. And so that's what we're going to do. And this isn't about one day a week. It's in person means 5 days a week. It's not one day a week. And so that's a big difference. Is we're looking at how do we get kids back into the classroom 5 days a week? How do we let our local communities decide what's best for their students and how to make that happen? And so I really appreciate that Senator Nelson has been leading the way on this issue. This is one of the most critical things that we can be doing in Minnesota. They should not have lost part of 2 school years. That's just totally unacceptable. This should never happen again. It shouldn't have happened, but we should never allow that to happen again. And so with that, Senator Nelson, would you take it over?
Thank you, Senator Gazelka, and I so appreciate the great support from your office and the Senate Republican caucus. And we hope with the governor's actions, it will be a broadly supported bill as well, seeing his most recent actions. Thank you, Senator Gazelka. I want to thank you all for coming today or for Zooming with us today. And I'm glad that Senate File 2 is going to be on the Senate floor for a full vote today. As has been said, it's a very simple bill about doing a very important thing. It's about doing what is best for our students. That is our future, folks. It is about doing what is best for students. And that decision, where can that decision best be made? I believe that is in the local school districts who know their students the best. They know the conditions on the ground. They know the mitigation efforts. And that is where those decisions made. But just 1 week ago, when the education commissioner was in the Senate Education Committee, she did not have a plan to send middle and high school students back to the classroom. I'm glad that this bill has moved quickly through the committee process and to the floor today. And it is a vote that we will be taking and leading in today. Again, it recognizes local control and it focuses on what is best for students. And we know that schools make decisions based upon the individual needs in their districts all the time. It's just not possible for the governor to unilaterally make one decision that fits all of the schools in all of our 87 counties with all of their different needs. And there's also overwhelming evidence, including research from the CDC, Biden's new CDC director, stating that it is safe for all kids to be in school, and it does not require that teachers all be vaccinated. And for months, we have seen the widespread agreement about the importance of getting students back in school. The American Association of Pediatrics said they strongly advocate that all policy decisions should start with the goal of having students physically present in school. This was back last summer. UNICEF warned of a lost generation, and they found that school closures are ineffective. And the Sahan Journal found that the pandemic had a devastating impact on communities of color in the St. Paul public schools. Now, we didn't know all of this when the pandemic started. But since that time, we've learned that the fatality rate is much lower than we thought. We have learned that students are not spreaders. And we have therapies, treatments, and vaccines. A one-size approach rarely fits, especially when you're talking about individual students in individual school districts. And that's why I look forward to passing Senate File 2 today, which will return the authority to where it belongs, quite frankly. And that is with the local school districts and their leaders. And with that, members, we have some real world perspective today. And with that, we will start with Ms. Coffee Monska. Ms. Coffee.
Hi, my name is Coffee Monska, and I'm just here speaking as a mom. I live in Shoreview with my husband and 3 boys who are ages 16, 15, and 13. My 16-year-old has special needs. He speaks in short sentences. He still is in diapers. My husband and I both work full time. My 13 and 15-year-old have had zero days of school in almost a year. None, no in-person education. My 16-year-old who has special needs has maybe had 10 days. That's it. So I believe education should be taken out of the governor's emergency powers. I do recognize in the news conference yesterday that he gave the right for secondary schools to open if they follow his guidelines. However, I mean, we are all like peasants waiting around the king with bated breath. We're all sitting at our TV screens listening. Everyone's texting. What is he going to say? What is he going to say? What is he going to say? We're all waiting for these crumbs of freedom that we already have a legal right to and a constitutional right to, waiting for him to give us any kind of crumbs. But what people need to recognize is that he can give and he can take away. And then when he takes it away, there's nothing we can do. There's no one we can petition to but him. And that's why people are sitting on his lawn, begging and begging for him to make different choices before, which has happened when they shut down schools before. We can't petition, the legislature. There's nothing we can do. And people say, oh, just relax. It won't happen again. Trust him. Well, it's happened twice now. And the last time it happened, I had very little notice. My school had finally opened for my special needs kid. He got about 4 days of education in before the schools closed because of the governor's order. I had no childcare. I mean, I have to work to keep a roof over my head, and he can't take care of himself. And also, he had no education because he can't do distance learning with his developmental disability. And people say, oh, it's just temporary, trust him. But it's likely to happen again. The virus ebbs and flows. There's new strains. An NPR article I just read said that even with the vaccine, that sometimes that teachers or anybody who has been vaccinated who are asymptomatic could possibly spread the virus. And they should still social distance and wear masks. And so this could last indefinitely. And these emergency powers that were supposed to be 15 days, which have turned into over 300, could last indefinitely. And I haven't heard of any plans of the governor giving up his powers. I've only heard of him promising to wield it wisely and to do so in our best interest. But I love my kids more than he does. I don't want COVID. I know people who died of it and who have been hurt by it, but I have to make decisions for my family. And I think that more local control would be better for that. So in some, I've had a knot over my stomach, this just constant knot over the lack of control that I have over my kids' education. For example, right now, my kid with special needs has gone from regular 5 days a week school, 30 hours a week of school, to only 8 hours of someone coming into our home to help him. His school has not handled COVID well. They cancel all the time at the last minute, and I can't do it. I can't work that way. And I want to transfer him to another school that's handled COVID better, but even they might shut down due to the governor's orders because he still has this control. And so I feel at a loss right now, and I don't know what to do. I just want there to be more local control. The governor can still provide information, but we can use that information and make decisions on a more local level. I want more access to decision makers, so I'm not tempted to go sit on his lawn all night long and beg for some education for my child. And I want more choice. Different schools could be open and could make different choices, could handle the virus differently, where I could go get my kid educated somewhere else. It's worked in Wisconsin, where their numbers are similar to ours, if not better, in many areas that I see on the news every night. And they don't have a rule saying all schools have to be open, but they have local control. And I've read articles where parents petition their school board members and have more control over their kids' education. It's worked in Wisconsin, and it can work here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Coffee. Mr. Helmers, tell us about your perspective. What have you witnessed?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Senator Nelson, for inviting me. So my name is Thaddeus Helmers. I got 2 boys in the high school here. I'm also the school board chair for Frazee Burgess School District 23. I'm also the president of the Let 'em Learn Minnesota organization. So experience as a parent, I vote for the people who sit on that school board. They are the voices from the community into the school district and how it operates. As a parent, last minute change can be a struggle. I mean, for me, I work full time. My wife works full time, and has a lot of impacts. With Senate File 2, I think this affects me more as a school board chair. Um, I'm voted. I'm an elected official, just like everybody else in the Senate, and it is my job to do what's best for that district. And at the end of the day, I have to think of the betterment of every single student that walks through those doors and how they're going to be taken care of, their safety, their health, their education, everything that comes with it. As the state transitioned, I understand directed courses of action from the governor. I get it. When there's emergency situations, it's time to do business, and those directed actions are necessary. But now it's not needed. I don't know how this is even, I know it's a good time to have this, but I don't even know why we're having this discussion, because it's a no-brainer. The school district boards are there to make decisions on the betterment of those students. I mean, quite honestly, if the federal government were to say, hey, this is how you're going to do education in Minnesota, I would hope that our governor would say, no, we take care of Minnesota. So as a school board representative, it troubles me when I have no say in the outcome of my district. Now, I understand the RSTs. I understand working together and having that input. Absolutely. It is necessary. It is needed. I appreciate it greatly. Setting up the ICTs within our districts, great idea. We probably would have done that on our own, but it ensured that all the proper people were there to make these decisions for my district. No one outside of my district knows the district like I do as a school board member, or my principals, or my superintendents, or my teachers union, or my teachers. And that's who needs to making the decisions, period. This is a no-brainer, and to vote against it, or to even think that MDE knows it's the best education process in my district, is wrong. And I encourage you to come out to my district and learn more about it. I appreciate your time, Senator Nelson. I was here, I spoke with you a couple of times before, and this needs to happen. It's for the betterment, so that we can continue to do what we do, because cookie cutter molds don't work. I'm out in rural Minnesota. We're making it work. My teachers are working hard. They're doing their best. And yeah, let us do what we do. I'm an elected official. Let me do my job. That's why the voters put me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helmers. Do we have some questions?
Yep, we can turn it over for questions. I do know that Mary LaHammer dropped in the chat that she had a question. Mary, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Senator Nelson. I'm assuming, given your previous chairmanship, that you're still in contact with a lot of districts. In light of the governor's announcement yesterday and the time frame, I want to know what you're hearing from districts and whether they can be back in school as soon as Monday at the middle school and high school level.
Yes, well, there is concern about the time frame and the ability, but what I would say is that this is an example of one more example of the governor's wrong approach, a one size fits all approach. The governor should be allowing our school districts to make these decisions. And you might recall that this proposal was on the Senate floor in July. And what a difference we would have seen had the governor at that time listened to the mounting evidence regarding students not being super spreaders, strong increases in academic failures, increased mental health needs, suicide increases, 1 out of 4 young adults seriously considering suicide. These things should have put a stop to this one size fits all dictates out of St. Paul. These decisions, even the reopening decisions, I believe, Mary, they should be drawn up in the local communities that know best the conditions on the ground, the resources, the mitigation efforts. And so I think the governor's, I'm glad he's realized how devastating these school closures have been, but I'm still concerned about this one size fits all approach.
And if I could just quickly follow up, don't districts now have the option to decide exactly when and how they go back?
Well, it was a little unclear from the governor's press conference about that. And the point is, I believe we all appreciate and we should appreciate guidance from our experts, the CDC, our epidemiologists, our educators, but at the governor's office, the Minnesota Department of Health. But the point is, at this point, it should be guidance. It should have been guidance back in the summer as opposed to a mandate. And so my Senate File 2 will remove a mandate and move to a guidance model, which is what our schools are looking for and what follows the science.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Up next, Bill Werner. Are you able to ask your question?
Yeah, hopefully you folks can hear me. I want to address my question to Mr. Helmers, because the governor, and specifically, Mr. Helmers, your school district's experiences with working with the Walz administration. The governor has repeatedly said that it's a collaborative effort between school districts and the Department of Education to make decisions, and that he's not forcing decisions on school districts, that it's a logical, collaborative effort. Is your experience different? And please give us specifics on that, on if you feel that you were railroaded or whatever the term might be by the Walz administration. I really would like to know your experiences with that, sir.
Absolutely. So I'm a very forward leaning person and a planner by nature, because that's my job. We started out the school year. I was a little hesitant with the guidance that was coming down. We started to learn that we could do it better. We had ways to do it. We made plans, and it just so happened that a lot of when Governor Walz, I know back in December, when he had the executive order talking about if we could start going back in person or not, my district already had a plan. And we were, amazingly enough, MDE allowed us to go forward with a plan. So my transitions have been working for me because I planned ahead. My district has planned ahead, and we've had the benefits. Now, talking to other school members and school board members from across the state, that's not the case for all. I'm one of the lucky ones. My district is one of the lucky ones. The teachers have really worked hard for me, and we've always had a plan, and we were able to come up with these plans with guidance from the RST, with MDE, MDH, or epidemiologists, our Becker County health people, and we made it work on our own with just guidance. And I think that's all that's really needed is the guidance, and the districts can do it.
If you can tell me, though, in talking to some of your fellow school board members or chairs from other districts, what kind of experiences have they been telling you that they've had with the Walz administration? Has it been a case where they haven't planned ahead enough, or has there been resistance there as far as you can see it, or their judgment to reasonable requests to reopen and that the Walz administration or the Minnesota Department of Health has not gone along with that?
So I have heard of school districts being disapproved through the RST. Now, when you get an approval or a disapproval from that RST, that regional support team, that seems like it's pretty much not guidance anymore. It's a yay or nay on if you can move forward or not. I've heard several districts that get disapproved. There's a few group members within Let Them Learn Minnesota who have that frustration. And I know Senator Duckworth was talking about not too long ago, asking those strong questions. Hey, is there really making approval and disapproval? I mean, the words in itself tells you that, yes, there are districts that are being disapproved by the RST, saying that they cannot open up or they can't follow their plan that they have.
And may I just, and then this will be the end of my questions. Okay, given if the RSTs are giving disapproval, what are you hearing from fellow school board members or chairs? Is that being unreasonable? Can you give us one or two examples of why the disapproval is unreasonable in the judgment of those folks you've talked to?
I haven't heard anything of it being unreasonable. I haven't gone into deep conversations with any of those school board chairs. But from my perspective, it's unreasonable because the district should know their district. that superintendent, that school board should know that district, and an outside entity trying to make those decisions. To me, it's micromanagement where that I understand when it's a state of an emergency. Got it. I acknowledge that. I really appreciate that because you need strong leadership quick. You need to make quick decisions, but now is not the time to make quick decisions. The school district wants to open and their ICT is saying yes, their superintendent saying yes, their school board saying yes, their teachers union is saying yes, then why is the answer no? So that's at least my perspective.
Thank you, sir.
Bill, just a little addition to that. Some of the issue is not the guidance; it is the approval or disapproval, and some of that came down to the metrics, which had to do with a school district that has students from one county, from several counties that had different case rates and all of that type of thing. So I think the issue is the metrics being applied, trying to be applied uniformly in very diverse situations.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Senator. Appreciate that.
All right, up next for a question is John Croman.
Hello. My question is, if this were to become law and there were no longer any executive order from the governor dictating to schools, what would be the legal cover for school districts that decide to close for a pandemic? Wouldn't they be in violation of some state law if they just unilaterally decided to close without the existence of an executive order?
No, they would not. School districts already have broad authority to close their schools for weather-related things, health-related issues. And so those, and also Senate File 2 is very specific. It's just about removing the school closure and altering schedules authority of the governor during his declaration of a peacetime emergency. So it's a very narrowly sculpted bill that just deals with a peacetime emergency declared by the governor and the ability for the governor to close schools during that time.
Thank you. I was thinking that districts might run up against some type of violation on the number of instructional days.
Oh, well, that has happened before. And you might recall a couple of years ago, actually, it was my bill. We had the snow days relief bill. And also there are other pieces that we have learned that can help. Usually it is weather related issues that we face in Minnesota. And one of the things that we have, actually, we passed it in the Senate last year. We'll bring it up again this year. And that is we have e-learning days, which currently are only available for weather-related situations. And there's only a maximum of 5 per year. I have legislation that is pending Senate votes to extend the e-learning days to to health-related issues as well, and increase the number of those e-learning days allowed. There are better ways to handle this than what has been done through the peacetime emergency powers of the governor.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then Walker Orenstein. That's the last one on my list. So if there's any other questions, please let me know. Oh, okay, I see Eric Escalon now. All right, we'll do that. And then we do have to stop at 10:50 to get Senator Nelson over for session. But Walker, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Senator Nelson, can you hear me?
Yes, good to hear you.
Great. I guess similar to John's question, but and maybe I'm just not understanding this, but Senate Republicans have talked about the need for schools to be open and to be open for 5 days a week, not one. If you're also not mandating them to be open, and maybe I'm misreading this bill that it is functionally doing that, would this change anything for districts that remain hesitant to open? And do you think there's anything you could or should do to sort of entice those districts to come back?
Yes, 2 good questions. This bill actually does not mandate that schools be open. It specifically states that the local elected leaders will make that decision, not a one-size-fits-all solution from the governor's office. We appreciate the guidance, but not the mandate. And yes, I do believe there are things that could be done to entice schools to be open. Number one, most of our schools are very focused on their students and their students' achievement. And so they just have to look at what has happened in the time of this pandemic. But also, there are carrots that I think would be good as well, which is as the aid comes from school aid, we should be rewarding those schools with aid who did open up safely and took those mitigation efforts that do cost money to make that happen. And so I do think there are ways that we can and should reward schools for safely opening, but it's not through the governor's executive powers.
Thank you.
All right, and then last question from Eric Escala.
Hey, Madam Chair, you haven't mentioned the teacher's role in these local districts and how much of this would have to be bargained with the local teachers unions. And I got the impression the governor was kind of trying to nudge St. Paul and Minneapolis yesterday toward opening up. And I wonder if a local board can't stand up to its teacher bargaining unit, what's accomplished?
Well, Eric, you do bring up a very good question there. School boards and teachers unions are supposed to be two different sides of the bargaining table, but all too often they're not. And that is a challenge. And that is a challenge. But I do believe that local control is where the district has the most impact. Parents will not put up for having their children not receive an excellent education. We have seen record numbers of decline in school enrollment this year because parents have just said, enough. There are other educational opportunities and they are using them for their children. I happen to believe that we need to have strong public schools because they lead to strong communities. But I am worried if in fact teachers unions continue to thwart what science has clearly shown is possible and the right thing to do, which is opening schools safely. And it's also, our economy's recovery is going to be based also upon our schools reopening and allowing parents to return to work. So there are many reasons why our teachers unions need to look at the science, look at the facts, the disastrous outcome of distance learning, and look to how they can indeed agree with the locally elected school district officials, school boards, and parents, and look for ways to get their kids back in school safely.
But just a quick follow-up, if the local teachers bargaining unit said, we're not coming back until we're vaccinated, we think it's unsafe, we're staying out, what would a school board do under those circumstances under your bill?
My bill does not address that. The CDC, however, the new Biden CDC director has addressed that and has specifically said that schools can open safely without all teachers being vaccinated. And the data shows that as well. So this is one avenue. Senate File 2 is one avenue of reining in the governor's executive powers through emergency peacetime orders regarding school closures. It is not the be all and end all. It is where we should have been, quite frankly, months ago. And it's really heartbreaking to see the massive amount of learning loss that has happened during the time that we've learned so much more about the virus, its effects, who is at most risk, and how to mitigate those effects. So this is a case example of why we need Senate File 2.
Rachel, do you have time for Board Member Helmers to react to my question?
Sure, yes, if he's still on. Thaddeus, are you still available?
Yes, so with the ICTs we have when we make those, before we make a transition or make decisions, our schools, our teachers union rep is a part of that decision process. I know back in October, November timeframe, when I had to make the untimely decision to go from hybrid to distance learning within my high school, one of my first questions was how the teachers were doing. And I've always taken their impression, their responses to heart, because I know it's my responsibility as a board chair to ensure that they're taken care of as well. I've heard, we've done anonymous surveys and whatnot, and I've got believe it or not, only overwhelming support from my teachers to continue to do this. So that tells me that they're willing to work. I've always been very open with my teachers union rep and have always talked to them. They say they don't want to teach. That's a tightrope I have yet to walk. And I guess if that happens, I'll have to deal with it. I don't know how the contract ramifications are yet with that, but I think it, at least with my teachers, I know a lot of teachers I've talked to, they want to be in the classroom. They understand how much this education means to those students, and a lot of them do hold true with that selfless service model that they want to see those smiling faces. They know why they became teachers, and a lot of them are willing to do it and accept it and move forward. So I hope I don't run into that issue that you mentioned, the teachers union going against the school district, but at least where I'm at, I don't actually see that happening.
Thank you.
And Eric, I would just add that many teachers are heartbroken that they have not been able to be in the classroom with their students. And they have gone to extraordinary, I would say almost impossible lengths when the governor gave them 8 days to suddenly flip their in-person classroom to distance learning. I think it was an impossible task, and many of them have done a phenomenal job. I'm sad that the governor and his commissioner have not more readily looked into ways to help teachers get more of their curriculum online. And knowing that there are new variants, I believe that we should be working to give our teachers those tools as well.
Thanks.
All right, and with that, folks, we are going to wrap it up. We do have session beginning at 11 a.m. where Senate File 2 will be voted on by the Senate. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.